Welcome, I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the Conscious Matters channel on the BBTV network. I'm declaring 2021 the year when even more businesses become conscious businesses and even more leaders become conscious leaders. And that's not just because of the COVID pandemic, it's because it's the right thing to do and the right thing to be. Throughout 2021, on our Conscious shows, our Conscious Academy, our Conscious Club, we'll be bringing you the best in thinking and action. And today's guest sets the pace as we discuss how you and your team can weather the storm of the coronavirus. For over 40 years, my guest has been recognized as one of the top motivational speakers in the world, endorsed by a myriad of top brands and companies. But what I'm really looking forward to discussing with him is something that's close to my heart and my passion, and that's positive thinking. I'm a no problems, only opportunities person. So let's get inspired and say, welcome, David Essel.
And Malcolm, great to be a part of your program, especially a conscious program, which is so incredibly needed in the times we're going through.
Yes, thank you, David. And the only thing about it is you're in sunny Florida and I'm in cold, sunny northeast of England. But never mind, we'll try and put some sunshine into everyone's watching lives here. David, Amen. Many businesses may be saying, thank goodness to 2020 to 2021 and 2020 is behind us all. Now, I applaud that moving forward thinking, but surely a simple date change and a flip into a new year, can it suddenly solve the growing alarm, stress, uncertainty that's been within teams and their leaders for the last 10 months? How should leaders be thinking at this moment?
Well, a point you're making is great. Everyone puts their hopes just like on a New Year's Eve resolution. I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year. So we had this concept that once that date happened, that everything would go back to normal. And well, we've seen that in our country, unfortunately, even our so-called leader hasn't let go of 2020. He's still doing the insanity that he's been pulling off for the last 4 years. So changing a date means nothing, but changing your mindset is where it's at right now. If we're looking at 2021 as the year of grace and we're going to be saved, we're going to be very disappointed, Malcolm, because there's not going to be a darn thing different that's going to happen until we start thinking, acting, speaking, doing differently. So if you look at 2021 as, okay, thank God we're here, now everything's back to normal, you're screwed. And at the end of 2021, you're going to see your business going down. You're going to see revenues decreasing. You're going to probably see expenses increasing, everything you don't want to have because you put too much hope into that transition of January 1st to January 2nd, January 3rd. So we have to be a little bit more solid in our thinking, in my belief system, prepare ourselves for 2021, but by doing it differently, Malcolm, not doing it the same way we did in 2020.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's follow that one through as we chat today, doing it differently. I quite agree. Look, like me, you've been motivating people to maximize their potential for over 40 years. Well, we've both got the gray hair, haven't we?
We do.
But look, it's a privilege to do that, isn't it? Things have changed for the good, I believe, as motivation, all those early years ago tended to not be compassionate or human. It was almost bullying. What's your thinking on the state of motivation today and what business leaders should be doing about inspiring individuals and teams?
Well, you said the last two words you used are really crucial to me, and that is inspiring individuals can be different and usually is different from one person to the next, Malcolm. So, if you're the owner of a company, a leader of the company, I don't care if you're in network marketing and you have 150 people underneath you, whatever business you might be in, we have to understand that not everyone is motivated by the same factors. Some person might be motivated by saying, hey, I'm going to start giving you Fridays off, and they freak out. Someone else may be motivated by an increase in money. Someone else might be motivated by an increase in responsibility. So this is a great question because I was on a business channel last week and the guy said to me, if you ran a large business today, what is the first thing you would do? And I said, easy. I would get all the top people together and I would have them evaluate their soldiers underneath them. Make sure that they're happy, that they're inspired, that they're challenged. And also, Malcolm, this is a time to make sure that all the people that you're working with or who's working for you are in the right position. 2 weeks ago, I helped a guy in sales who stunk in sales go into marketing, and he's a rock star. He was just put in the wrong position, but he's outrageously talented. So I'm encouraging business leaders today, when we talk about conscious leaders, to slow down. Quit projecting blame that your company isn't doing things because of everyone else. Take responsibility and see if you need to make a dynamic shift in the hierarchy of your company, if you need to bring in a consultant to see why things aren't working, but don't sit in a company that's not producing at the level that it could.
Excellent, excellent. I really like that. Now, I wanted you as a guest on this, our fastest growing channel, the BVTV Conscious Matters Show, as I admire your work supporting team members at this particular time. What are you especially proud about what you're doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the greatest thing for anyone in the world of therapy and counseling is when we can see a couple on the verge of divorce and we help bring them back together. Yeah. We see someone struggling with alcohol and they've been free for a year now. We see someone, I'm talking about clients of mine, that was 245 pounds overweight, and she became a bodybuilder after losing 245 pounds. So, for me, Malcolm, one of the greatest things, and people say, I just was asked this yesterday, do you ever get tired of talking? Because that's all I do, right? It's like I do interviews every day. I have 8 to 10, one-on-one client sessions with my counseling clients every day. I never get tired because I'm constantly seeing progress. Like, and this in the world of our mindset, what you look for, you will see. Like, yes. This is crucial. So if you have, let's go back to employees. If you have an employee that has underserved, that they haven't reached their potential, and you create a mindset that whenever you see John, it's like, oh God, there's John. He's never really doing everything he can. What you're going to do is constantly see John never performing to his level. So we have to be very careful, of what we're looking for, because we can project images and definitions and titles onto people. And instead of doing that, I'm saying, hey, if you're a conscious leader, you're saying, I wonder if he's in the wrong position. He's not in a good mood. I wonder if he needs help from an employee assistance program, our HR program. Maybe he's struggling at home. That's the conscious leader that's in touch with what Eckhart Tolle said so well with his book, The Power of Now. That means a leader is in the moment. They are living in the moment, and that's what, your show, which is such a blessing to this world at this time, Malcolm, talking about consciousness. Well, I've just reeled off probably 6 or 8 different tips of consciousness. And then, our viewers and listeners can step back and go, am I doing that? Am I projecting a title, a label onto someone who works for me? And I need to find out if they're in the wrong position or if there's something I can do to help them, instead of just going, oh, well, John's just lazy. Maybe he's in the wrong position, or maybe he needs more help, Malcolm.
Yeah, I was just thinking there, David, before we move on to the next question there, that bit that you just quite said, step back. I don't think enough leaders do take that time to think and step back and to look, do they?
No, a lot of us, we get on that hamster wheel, right? And we just keep producing the same actions, the same momentum, even if it isn't bringing us to what we want. And so what we say is quarterly. Now, this is a lot of work. I understand that. But in our business practice, we ask all leaders quarterly to take 8 to 10 hours on a Friday with their main staff and to evaluate every part of their company, where they wanted to be and where they are. And the reason I say quarterly, Malcolm, is because when you see a pattern at the end of a quarter that isn't healthy with sales or whatever it might be, you have a chance to adjust and change then. Yeah. But what most people do is they'll do it once a year or once every couple years. And by then, the pattern has gotten so much momentum rolling down that mountain that it could be almost impossible to change. So if we're going to get conscious, every leader on a quarterly basis should be meeting with their top sergeants, lieutenants, whatever you want to call them, going through their goals and where they are, and then making adjustments along the way. Instead of waiting for crisis, we're being proactive, Malcolm.
Yeah, brilliant. And I love that quarterly concept there. As you say, too many people do it annually, and it becomes a drudge.
Oh, God, it becomes a drudge. And, by then it's going to be too late.
Yeah,
To turn around a pattern that's been taking your company down the wrong path for 12 months, it's going to be, oh my God, now we're in reactive mode. And when we're in reactive mode, we don't have the creativity because of the stress and pressure. But if you're doing it quarterly, you're being proactive, which means you can see a problem early. Your creativity is going to be at an all-time high because you're just noticing it, and we can turn it around.
I think that's really great. And I'm hoping that viewers and listeners have really noted that quarterly thing there. Oh, by the way, just before we move on to that next question, David, I just want to remind viewers and listeners of your URL, your website URL. It's on the screen behind me, viewers. You can see that as davidessel.com. But for listeners, let me just spell that out for you. It's David, and then Essel is ESSEL. davidessel.com. David, productivity is a key worry amongst business leaders because of the work from home demand at the moment. However, working from home is likely to become the norm for the future. I certainly know it's going to be here in the UK, and leaders need to adapt themselves to how they manage people. Do you agree? And if so, how and where do you think that adaptation needs to take place?
Malcolm, what a beautiful question. And I agree with you. I think this work for home thing is here for good. I really do. I mean, it's there's a couple of my clients that they were working for a massive corporation in Atlanta, Georgia, huge buildings, a big campus. And about 4 months ago, they told everyone to clear out. And they even made the statement. Now, I can't mention the name of the company because of confidentiality and counseling, but they made the statement that you will not be returning. Wherever you want to move to in the country, move there now, because from now on, you're going to be working from wherever you are. This is the norm. It can save businesses so much money. It's an incredible savings for almost all corporations. Now, the downside is the morale. The downside is the lack of daily interaction, of lifting each other up when you see your friends in the hallway. The downside is that the owners, the managers, the president, the vice president, division heads, they have access to the workload usually being done at home by their employees because it's all in a network tied into work. So they can see the number of hours that people are putting in. Now, I tell you that is somewhat of a secret because most employees working at home aren't aware that they can be shadowed that closely.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be here for the rest of our lives. I really do. The other thing, Malcolm, is that what we've seen is that we've seen a huge increase in entrepreneurship, small businesses being started online during this pandemic. They're going to continue to grow as well. Because, hey, if you can reach 100 or 100,000 people from your desktop at home, why do we want to be going out and spending money on traveling and events and all that kind of stuff? So I think it's good. Now, going to the second part of your question, I really believe that managers have more stress now with people working from home. They can't walk around. They can't have their business meetings. Now, they can on Zoom. But, I've talked to a lot of managers that say, you have 20 of your employees on Zoom. You can't see them all. They could be picking their nose, reading a comic. They could be doing anything, And so he said it's really been harder for him. So I think the pressure is going to be on the management to find new creative ways to keep their employees working at home inspired, Malcolm, to keeping them on track. And that can go the gamut. There's no rules here. Remember, we're remaking this all up as we go. But there are going to be some very smart people that are going to start to implement ways to track productivity with their employees at home and ways to inspire those employees at home to do great work. Because you and I both know if we're at home, it's easy to get up and have a snack, put your laundry in, fold the dry laundry, check your email. There's all kinds of distractions. Yeah. So the best managers are going to have to find a way to overcome those distractions and make sure everyone is working towards the same goal.
Excellent. Yes. And that's where I think conscious leadership will really come in, because suddenly business leaders have got to start understanding the people that are working from them, previously, when they were all in a cattle shed of an office, all you need to do is just chuck down the messages. Now
That's right.
you've got to actually understand them, isn't it? Look, as we start here at 2021, I've interviewed around 300 business and thought leaders from the start of lockdown last March. Now, not all have presented themselves well on screen. And I did tell you before we started of a couple of bloopers. Now, that may be understandable given this new medium of Zoom and other virtual platforms.
Yeah.
But it's now the normal in our altered world, as we're saying. How do you advise business leaders to go about ensuring they represent themselves and their business well and positive on screen in communication situations such as we're doing together, both internally and externally?
Malcolm, every business leader that has not gone through media training must go through media training right now. I remember in 1981, I was a sports psychologist and I was a sponsored athlete by Reebok. The very first thing Reebok did when they signed me on was they said, we're taking you through media training. And it was phenomenal. So we did practice TV interviews. We did practice radio interviews. I learned about the concept of snippets. I've learned about the concept of projecting energy while you speak, and so there's training. And I don't care if you're a great speaker. Being a great speaker does not translate into being a great 15-minute guest on a radio or television show. So, we teach a course on how to become a professional speaker. And in that course, we teach media training. So if someone wants to come and check out our public speaking course at the website that you have right here, Malcolm, that's great. If they don't want to work with me, I advise everyone in upper management to find a media trainer in your area or out, because you can do media training right here on a laptop. But make sure, because there's going to be so many more shows like yours coming out. I mean, you already mentioned, Malcolm, you have 4 different shows on your network now?
Eight now. 8, yeah.
8 different shows. So this is the norm. So, and listen, I hosted a nationally syndicated radio talk show for over 30 years. And there were people that wrote great books that sucked as guests. I mean, they were terrible as radio guests. And what we would do, Malcolm, unfortunately, is that if they didn't know how to be interviewed on the radio, we would keep them on for 6 minutes instead of the 30 minutes or an hour, and then we'd let them go. And the reason for that is that it makes me look bad as the host, and it doesn't do a damn bit of service to the audience when you have someone that doesn't know how to answer in media bites. So I think that that's really crucial. And here I'm going on to a very long answer to your question.
Hey, David, you've also just illustrated how good you are, what a great guest you are. But tell me, I just want to remind people again, davidessel.com. And remember, the spelling of Essel for those listening is E-S-S-E-L. davidessel.com. Get some energy going as David's going. But let's keep on about you anyways.
Yeah.
What makes David get out of bed in the mornings? What or who personally motivates the motivator? Do you have your own motivational regime?
I sure do, but I'll tell you, the number one thing is that for 40 plus years, I've done what I've loved. Malcolm, that's the answer to how I am motivated every day. That's not a secret.
I'm with you on that one, Dave. I'm just going to stop you and do a high five.
I love it.
Okay, go on.
If you do what you love, and I don't care if it's working in a convenience store and you love it, or you're a plumber, or you're a manager, or whatever you are, it doesn't matter to me. If you do what you love, every day is easier. Every day is more joyful. So that's the answer to number one. And if you're not doing what you love, you don't have to quit your job and take a risk and jump full time. Start doing something on the side part time that you think you might enjoy. I've got tons of stories of people over the years that we've worked with that hated the job that they had 9 to 5. They would take it out unconsciously, subconsciously on their wife and kids because they weren't happy. We got them into a part-time side gig that they would do 1 or 2 nights a week that they loved. I'm thinking of one guy who was a woodworker. He worked in a menial job. He hated it. He was always in a bad mood. He was incredible with his hands. So we started him at night doing some woodworking. Now, it took about 4 years and it went full time, and he is in heaven right now. So if you're struggling, number one is look around at what you're doing for your work. because we spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day in this freaking world of work. Yeah. Make sure you're enjoying it, right? And then the second answer, Malcolm, to your question is that every morning I have a routine and ritual that it takes about an hour that I do before I get out of bed. There's no phone, there's no television, there's no text. I keep my phone shut off, my computer down. There's no TV, there's no music. It's David with David. I'm doing gratitude rituals. I'm doing goal setting rituals. I'm doing some visualization. I'm doing some affirmations. I'm thinking about the things that I need to be better at. I'm asking God, I'm asking the angels to help me be better, more patient. I'm not patient in traffic, Malcolm. Okay. So every morning I have the same opportunity to ask for more patience. But what I found is, and then I'll listen to like maybe 10 minutes of a motivational YouTube or a show like yours. So by the time that hour is over, I'm up, I'm ready to see what's going on in the world. But unfortunately, most of us are addicted to our smartphones. We're addicted to television. So the very first thing is we have to have noise going on. Very first thing, you got to check your email. You have to check your social media. By doing that, and especially today with all the crap on social media, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. Like you're starting your day behind the 8 ball if the first thing you do is look at social media or the stocks or what's going on in the presidential crap anywhere in the world, you know? So we say, take that first hour, allow yourself to come into the new day, allow your mind to start the new day with a positive mindset, a proactive mindset. And then if you need to, go into the nonsense on social media. But, you know, we have a lot of clients, Malcolm, that we've helped completely delete social media, or we have them just on weekends because it was sucking up so much of their energy and time. And, you know, all it takes is one post on social media that you disagree with. And if you're going to waste your time and respond to that, that stuff sticks with you for an hour, 2 hours, maybe the rest of your day. So let's start being conscious, as Malcolm says. Let's start being conscious and making sure that you're limiting your online time and you're putting more time into self-love, love of your family, self-care. This is where I think we need to be heading in 2021.
That is brilliant, David. And I wish I'd learned that many, many years ago. But now I do practice. And my bedroom window, I open the curtains and I'm looking across beautiful English countryside. And I've got a pad. You know, it's sort of a board with A3 white paper on, and I'll just randomly draw things that keep coming into my head there before I start to switch on that stuff. Or I'll wait until my wife shouts from her room it's tea time, and then I've got to go and make her a cup of tea. One of those things. But anyways, it focused me. You're so right. Now, I'm a great believer in emotional intelligence and knowing your EQ, or emotional quotient. In fact, I think it's a great skill every business leader should acquire, certainly every leader who wants to be seen as a conscious leader. But I think there's still too many businesses who at the top think that all this is too soft. Yeah. What's your thoughts on EI, emotional intelligence, as an essential leadership skill?
Oh my gosh, you know, I think it's probably maybe number one is going to be drive. Okay, number one is going to be drive, because without the drive to succeed, the desire to succeed, you know, so there's got to be that mental, emotional, psychological, physical drive. But then emotional intelligence is fabulous. We've renamed it and we call it emotional regulation. Now, when we talk about emotional regulation, we're talking about a person that has the emotional capability, and this is a huge part of emotional intelligence, that they can be hit with a setback. They can be hit with something very uncomfortable. And where a lot of us will knee-jerk, subconscious react, defend, deny, attack, you know, whatever it might be, an opposing view, the person who has emotional regulation takes a step back. You know, you're noticing I'm talking a lot about taking a step back today, Malcolm.
Yeah, totally.
Those with high EI or high emotional regulation, they take a step back before they respond. Now, that step back might be 24 hours, Malcolm. They may say to that person, I understand your point. I understand you're frustrated. Let me get back to you in 24 hours. Now, they do that so they don't react emotionally. They do that so they can go home, they can think logically about, okay, what's going on in his head, what's going on in her life, what's going on, that they are this angry, this upset, this whatever it might be. Now, some people might go, that's impossible. I need to give them an answer right away. And that's false.
Yeah.
That's 100% false. Unless it's a life or death surgery decision. Like, do we do this surgery? You know, you're getting a call from the doctor, your wife's in the hospital. Listen, it's a really risky surgery. Do you want us to do it? Well, we're not going to say, give me 24 hours to think about it. But that's a rare example. Besides that, Malcolm, most people are so into instant gratification that they want to spout out an answer. And the other person is so into instant gratification, they want to get into that fight or that argument or the disagreement. But the high EI, or in our words, the high person that has mastered emotional regulation says, you know, I hear your point. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow at 4 p.m. And that's crucial. When you're going to slow down, you have to give directives with specifics. You can't just say, okay, I'll think about it and get back to you tomorrow, because that's an escape route. But if you say, hey, I respect you. We may disagree on this point. I respect you enough to tell you I'll give you my feedback tomorrow at 4.
So I like that emotional regulation. I'll remember that a lot, David, every time I see Queen Elizabeth, because it's called ER reign, emotional Elizabeth reign. Every post box, everything's got ER on it. Yeah, brilliant. Now, I want to talk to you about personal top tips that you may have to avoid burnout of yourself in these extraordinary times. Now, mine is extra time and wine with my wife.
Love it. You know, if about 80% of the clients I work with right now, part of what we're doing, and, you know, we've got clients in London right now that it's going to be funny when this is done and we have it, I'll be sharing it with my London clients. But, you know, I think what we need to do is we need to be taking time, stepping back. When you talk about motivation, I'm going to go back to the morning rituals. Are you taking time to exercise? Exercise can be walking, for God's sake. It doesn't have to be going into gyms. And I know most gyms are closed in so many countries right now, right? But, you know, the motivation comes from self-care. The motivation comes from self-love. There are too many of us, Malcolm, that have totally lost the concept of self-love, self-care. We're very codependent. We put everyone else's needs above our own. And in that way, we suffer. We become victims. We stop taking care of ourselves mentally, spiritually, physically. But in this pandemic, if we don't slow down and create daily rituals to help us stay grounded and motivated, you know, something that I've started to do. I mean, I've been a big reader my whole life, but during the pandemic, I've increased the amount I read now. And I'm not talking about online. I'm talking about books, you know, motivation, spirituality, business, all that kind of stuff. And I've created more space in the pandemic. Now, most of us have some more space. If you have space and you're a workaholic, use the space for your mind, for your heart, for your soul. If you don't think you have the space, hire someone to help you with time management. Because the workaholic, one of the things they often suck at, Malcolm, is time management. So they have 25, 30 goals on a daily basis, which is probably absolutely insane. So they're very proud of this long list that never gets freaking completed. And then they wonder why they're depressed, they're anxious, they're burning out. So if you find yourself in burnout, the first thing to do is look at self-care, which is usually nominal at best. The second thing to do is look at your schedule. Hire an expert to come in and teach you time management. And part of the time management is time off. You know, that's part of time management, right? Yeah. But the workaholic is going 6, 7, 8, 9 days a week. And that's where we say, if you're struggling, you got yourself into this situation. The odds of you being able to get yourself out of it are almost nil by yourself. So break down, get vulnerable, invest time, money, and effort into an expert to help you reduce that workaholic attitude and bring more clarity and calmness into your life.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I like the time out as well, or time off. My best thinking time is when I'm cutting the grass. The only problem is, David, I can't sort of write and push the mower at the same time. Look, when, and I emphasize when, this virus is under control and the world sort of becomes normal again, what do you think the legacy of it will be within businesses and their people?
I think it's going to be, look at how we adapted to change. Look at how we took on this massive challenge and we adapted our physical life, our relationships, our business model. Look at how we avoided the internet for years, and now our business model is the internet. Look at how, I think it's going to be exciting. I've got to tell you something hilarious though, Malcolm. So one of my teammates, we don't call them employees, we call them teammates, but one of my teammates is involved with my social media. She does all social media. And we've really cut back a lot. I hardly do anything anymore. But I was saying to her, tell me about what your other clients are doing, because she's in marketing that's successful. And she said, David, here's a story that's going to blow your mind of my most successful client, meaning that he started a business during the pandemic, and 2 months later, he's booked for a year.
Wow. And
I said, what did he do marketing wise? And she said, he put signs on the corners of busy roads. Professionally done signs. Malcolm, I used to do that 40 years ago.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
It's like, and we're laughing, like, what worked 40 years ago, this guy's doing now, and he's killing it. He's killing it in business. Stay open-minded. Yeah. Look at 2021 as a way to blow out your fears, to ask for help, to re-engineer your business, to re-engineer your life. This is the time to get some help, to make the changes so that this year becomes awesome. Because when I look at 2020, even with all the tragedy, Malcolm, it positively affected me because it made me slow down and realize a couple things. One, the answer to the question you just asked, I was slipping back into workaholism. I thought I had it nailed. And then all of a sudden, February 1st of last year, we had lost 50% of our business in 1 month. And I started working more hours trying to catch up that business. And then I realized I was going right back into burnout. And so what did I do? I reached out to a professional, just like I'm recommended here. I hired someone. We went through a 6-week process to have me slow down and accept the stress that the pandemic has caused. So I look at 2020 as an amazing year of change for me that I will continue on in 2021, growing my business in a slightly different way, but as importantly, slowing down.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a positive thinker, and my best one is any day above ground is a good day.
That's right, exactly.
David, sadly, we've got to be coming to an end soon, but I've got one more question. I like to give all my guests 3 wishes. Your wishes are for what businesses should be doing now to ensure that they are healed and proactive in 2021.
All right, well, wish number 1 is quarterly meetings, right? Quarterly brain strain. Without a doubt, that's my number 1 wish, is that corporations would start slowing down on a quarterly basis and evaluating everything they're doing, good and bad. What's going well, let's champion that. Number 2, what isn't working, let's adapt and change now and not let it roll or snowball into something bigger down the road that we're not going to be able to correct. I think that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be, and I've got a surgeon doing this with his staff right now. Number 2 is I want all leaders to teach their employees emotional regulation. I want them to take them through steps that when you're stressed out at your desk and you normally do X, Y, or Z, I want you to have alternative reactions, healthy coping mechanisms. And that's what emotional regulation is. Normally, I knee-jerk react when Bill comes into the office and asks me to do something. I haven't even let the words get out of his office and I'm saying no. So what we want to do is have the leaders of this world teach their people how to master their own emotions. And it will benefit them, Malcolm, at home as well as in the workplace, right? And then number 3, I think we need to give people a greater opportunity to be more creative. Years ago, the big thing in business meetings was that let's get the little people's opinions on how we should change the assembly line, how we should change marketing. I mean, they used to actually ask the assembly line workers, how could we change? You guys do this 12 hours a day. We sit up in our freaking offices. Is there some way to make this more productive? I think we need to move back into asking our staff and our employees, like, if you were in charge of this department, how would you alter it? What do you need? Do you need more training? Do you need more assistance? In other words, I think we need to get back into more one-on-one conversations with our staff, making sure they're in the right position, making sure they have their needs met, and then asking them, what would make your department run more efficiently? Being that open and vulnerable. I think those are 3 of my wishes for businesses in 21.
They're brilliant, David. Brilliant. Just like the rest of our interview today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's a final high five, is it?
You got it.
Yeah. Thank you, David Essel of davidessel.com for a brilliant interview.
Malcolm, I loved it, and I look forward to helping you in the future. If there's anything I can ever do, please reach out.